It was just after 12:30 in the afternoon at Naval Station Norfolk when Lieutenant Alexandra Reeves stood behind the stainless steel counter, serving mashed potatoes to a line of hungry recruits. To them, she was just another cafeteria worker. Her hair tucked neatly beneath a navy blue cap. Her expression unreadable. Beneath the surface, however, was the focus of an intelligence officer assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command. Someone who had spent years embedded with SEAL teams in places far from safe. Every small movement in the room registered in her mind the scrape of boots, the clatter of metal trays, the steady rhythm of institutional life that hid 1,000 secrets. The mess hall was alive with noise, the kind that filled every corner and made private thoughts impossible. Steam drifted from food warmers, the air heavy with the smell of gravy and coffee that had been sitting too long. Recruits joked too loudly, bumping shoulders and laughing, unaware that the woman serving their meals could take down a trained adversary in seconds. Alex's gaze never lingered, but she saw everything. The slight hesitation in one sailor's posture, the nervous glances exchanged at table 7. The way one recruit's laughter didn't quite reach his eyes. Her years in combat had taught her that danger rarely announced itself. It hid in plain sight, wrapped in ordinary moments like this one. She moved down the line, wiping the counter as if her mind were on autopilot. But her thoughts were sharp and deliberate. The Navy had sent her here to find whoever was leaking data on the new directed energy weapon system, a prototype powerful enough to blind satellites or disable entire defense grids. As the lunch crowd thinned and the sound of trays faded, Alex paused, sensing a subtle shift in the air. Someone was watching her. It was faint, but unmistakable. Her instincts whispered that the quiet was about to end. The memory of the briefing still echoed in Alex's mind. The room had been cold and windowless. A typical secure facility deep inside Naval Intelligence Headquarters. Fluorescent light reflected off the metal table as Commander Jacob Harlow laid out the mission details. His tone steady but heavy with the kind of gravity that left no room for misunderstanding. A prototype directed energy weapon using quantum encryption technology had been compromised, and early intelligence pointed to someone inside Naval Station Norfolk. Harlow's eyes had met hers across the table. He reminded her that a single leak like this could neutralize the nation's defense grid. That was why they needed someone who could disappear in plain sight. Someone who understood both the technical and human sides of warfare. Alex didn't hesitate. Her file spoke for itself. But Harlow didn't need to say it. 3 combat deployments with SEAL Team 5 had forged her instincts and discipline. She had operated in places where a wrong glance or misplaced word could end lives. This mission was different, but the stakes felt the same. As Harlow slid the folder toward her, she already knew she would accept. She studied the briefing photo of the prototype's casing, its sleek metallic finish, concealing enough power to change modern warfare. Before she left, Harlow issued her equipment, a civilian-style encrypted phone for logging intelligence, a concealed Sig Sauer P365 compact pistol holstered at her ankle, and a small transmitter embedded in her watch for secure communication. Now, back in the cafeteria, Alex moved down the serving line as if her thoughts were on meal portions and schedules. In reality, every recruit who passed by was a data point. She listened for accents, watched posture, tracked small tells, like who avoided eye contact and who held it too long. Her phone, disguised as an ordinary model, was quietly recording encrypted snippets of audio from nearby tables. At table 7, a group of 15 recruits sat too close, their laughter too rehearsed, their attention too controlled. They stopped talking whenever a senior officer walked by. Alex felt that familiar pull in her gut, the one honed over years of survival. Something about them didn't belong. Her instincts, the same ones that had saved her team more than once, whispered the same warning they always did before things went bad. The mess hall had emptied out, leaving only the low hum of fluorescent lights and the faint rattle of trays being stacked in the kitchen. Alex sat in the far corner, but her back to the wall. A tray of half-finished food beside her. She unlocked her phone, which looked like an ordinary civilian model, and began quietly logging encrypted notes about the recruits she had observed. Her fingers moved in practiced rhythm as she typed, cross-referencing patterns of speech, posture, and interaction. The screen reflected her face faintly, but in that reflection, another shape moved, then another. She froze for a fraction of a second, her eyes shifting just enough to catch the reflection of several figures closing in from behind. A loose circle formed around her table, 15 recruits, their movements casual but coordinated, fanned out as if it were spontaneous. The leader, tall and broad-shouldered, sat down across from her without asking. His name tag read, Hale, and his forced Boston accent made her ears tighten with suspicion. He leaned back in the chair, eyes narrowing. "Haven't seen you before," he said lightly. "Transferred from Pensacola." "Right, my cousin works there. Funny thing, he doesn't remember anyone named Reeves." Around the table, a few others chuckled, but their laughter was hollow. Alex looked up calmly, her tone even braided. "Maybe your cousin doesn't eat much." Inside, she was running silent calculations. One recruit had moved to her left, blocking the nearest exit. Two others kept their hands under the table. Another stood with his feet slightly apart, torso angled a bladed stance, ready for movement. She scanned the room without turning her head. Closest potential weapons, the metal tray, serving tongs. A fire extinguisher on the wall, 10 feet to her right. She wasn't panicking. Her breathing stayed slow, deliberate. This was textbook pressure testing, and she'd taught this drill herself at SEAL training sessions years ago. Then Jason Hale reached out and deliberately knocked over her tray. Food splattered onto the floor, the clatter echoing in the quiet hall. Every sound seemed sharper. Alex's pulse stayed steady, but her senses flared. That wasn't an accident. Provocation tactics were used to bait a reaction, to test identity, to break composure. She looked at Hale's smirk and understood these weren't just cocky recruits testing a cafeteria worker's patience. Something deeper was in play. Her instincts told her the circle had just tightened, and the real game was about to begin. Jason Hale's hand dipped into his jacket, and Alex saw the glint of steel before anyone else did. The curved handle of a Gerber paraframe folding knife caught the light, and everything inside her shifted from observation to action. Her instincts, shaped by years of SEAL close-quarters battle training, took control before thought could interfere. She swung the metal tray in an upward arc, catching his wrist hard enough to make him drop the knife. It clattered to the floor, the sound slicing through the silence of the mess hall. The recruits froze, startled by how fast she moved. In one seamless motion, Alex stepped inside his guard, twisting his wrist and locking his arm behind his back. Her weight drove him face down onto the table, her stance balanced and controlled, eyes scanning for the next threat. Two recruits lunged forward, unsure of what to do, but she didn't flinch. Her hand shot to the nearby water pitcher. She smashed it against the table, the plastic shattering, leaving a jagged edge in her grip. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Stand down." The tone carried authority that didn't belong to a cafeteria worker. No one moved. The recruits looked at one another, confusion mixing with something new, fear. Jason groaned beneath her hold, his pride stinging more than the pain. Alex's breathing stayed even, her muscles loose but ready. Every angle of escape already mapped in her mind. The air shifted again when the doors burst open. Colonel Miriam Tangle strode in, her presence cutting through the tension like a blade. Every recruit in the room snapped to attention, except the one still pinned to the table. Tangle's Chaze met Alex's. A flicker of recognition passing between them. "Lieutenant Reeves?" she said evenly. "I see you've met our problem, children." Silence swallowed the room. In that instant, every recruit realized the truth. The woman they had mocked was not a kitchen worker. She was a Navy SEAL officer who had just taken down their leader without breaking a sweat. Colonel Tangle's voice carried over the stunned recruits, listing Alex's rank, her combat tours, and her service record as a Navy SEAL officer. The revelation still hung in the air when everything went dark. A sharp click echoed through the mess hall as the power cut out. The sudden silence felt heavier than the darkness itself. Then came the low rumble of the emergency generator kicking in, followed by the red glow of backup lights washing over the room like blood. Before anyone could move, the windows exploded inward. M83 smoke grenades clattered across the floor, spewing thick white smoke that swallowed the air in seconds. The tang of burning phosphorus stung Alex's throat, and someone nearby started coughing. Boots scraped against tile. The sounds sharp and fast. Alex's instincts flared alive. She shouted for everyone to get down, diving toward Tangle as glass and debris rained around them. Her shoulder hit the floor hard, but she didn't hesitate. Through the haze, she caught sight of movement that didn't belong. 3 recruits advancing in tight formation, covering each other's positions like trained soldiers. Their precision cut through the chaos. Tangle crouched beside her, voice strained but clear. The prototype's being moved today. This is a diversion. Alex's thoughts snapped into focus. She reached down, pulling her Sig Sauer P365 from the ankle holster, feeling the cool metal ground her. She performed a quick chamber check by touch, training muscle memory, guiding her through the motion. Around them, alarms blared, and smoke rolled thicker across the floor. Alex's pulse steadied. These weren't scared kids. They were operatives. She met Tangle's eyes through the haze. We need to reach Annex 7 before they do. The colonel gave a single nod. Then Alex pushed forward into the smoke, already calculating her next move. Alex moved into the smoke-filled corridor, the weight of the Sig Sauer P365 firm in her hand. The alarms blared in rhythmic pulses, red emergency lights flickering across the walls like a heartbeat. She dropped into a low silhouette, knees bent, her steps silent on the polished floor. The training that had kept her alive through 3 deployments guided every motion. Her fingers stayed indexed along the frame, safety off but controlled. Her breath measured. She cleared each corner using slice the pie. Her weapon angled forward just enough to react without exposing herself. The air was thick with the chemical bite of the smoke grenades, and visibility was down to 10 feet. Still, she could hear them ahead, 3 sets of boots, moving with deliberate precision. These weren't frightened recruits. They were communicating without words, executing cover and move tactics she recognized instantly. The faint hum of the backup power systems vibrated through the walls, punctuated by the strobe flicker of red lights. She followed the sound of a keypad tone and rounded the next corner just in time to see them. One operative worked the control panel of the research storage door, another covered the hallway, rifle trained toward the direction she had come. The third, tall and calm, held a reinforced metal case marked with a quantum encryption lock. Alex leveled her weapon. Stop right there. The leader turned toward her, his accent now clearly Eastern European, his smirk defiant. Too late. Lieutenant, he said evenly. The door behind him slid open with a mechanical hiss. Alex fired twice, quick and clean, aiming low. According to base engagement protocol, the shots echoed through the hall, sparking off the metal walls. One operative dropped, clutching his leg, while the other 2 disappeared into the haze of the open corridor. She moved to cover, reloaded, and pressed her comms. Tangle's voice crackled through the static. Containment team's 2 minutes out. Alex exhaled, scanning the empty hallway. I can't wait, she replied quietly. She pushed forward through the haze, heartbeat steady, mind sharp. Every movement was deliberate. Every step carried the weight of a mission where hesitation meant failure. Alex burst through the side exit, the cold night air hitting her lungs as she spotted the black Chevy Suburban idling by the east perimeter fence. The three operatives were already sprinting toward it, their movements sharp and practiced. One carried the metallic case close to his chest, the stolen directed energy weapon prototype, gleaming faintly under the red emergency lights. Gunfire cracked through the chaos. Muzzle flashes, illuminating the smoke that still drifted from the shattered building. Alex dropped behind a concrete barrier, her body low, her breathing steady. She assessed her angle, raised her Sig Sauer P 365, and fired 2 controlled shots. The rounds hit low, one striking the rear operative's leg. He stumbled, crashing to the pavement. But the others didn't slow. Alex rose, moving with trained precision. She advanced using cover and move tactics, scanning the field for threats as alarms wailed across the base. The Suburban's engine roared to life, its headlights cutting through the haze. Alex fired again, hitting the front tire, slowing the vehicle but not stopping it. The driver swerved toward the gate, tires screeching as he tried to punch through the perimeter fence. Alex sprinted, boots hammering against the asphalt. She reached the vehicle just as it surged forward, grabbing the running board and pulling herself up against the door. Her knuckles whitened as she held on. With her free hand, she smashed her elbow through the passenger side window, glass shattering into her face. She reached inside, seized the steering wheel, and wrenched it hard to the left. The SUV spun out of control, crashing through the fence with a deafening screech. Metal twisted, airbags exploded, and smoke hissed from the mangled hood. Alex rolled clear of the wreck, her palms scraping against gravel. But she was on her feet again before the engine stopped hissing. Her weapon came up instinctively, aimed at the driver's chest, as he stumbled out, dazed and coughing. The red lights flickered against his pale face as he raised his hands, surrendering without a word. The only sound left was her steady breathing and the distant echo of sirens. Alex lowered her weapon slowly, stepping forward to retrieve the metallic case. The mission wasn't over. Not yet. But the prototype was safe. And for the first time that night, she allowed herself a single breath of relief. 2 days later, Lieutenant Alexandra Reeves stood at attention inside Commander Jacob Harlow's office. Her uniform was immaculate, her posture rigid, despite the bandage around her forearm and the fading bruises along her cheek. Behind her, calm expression was the fatigue of someone who had lived through another long night of survival. Colonel Miriam Tangle stood beside Harlow, her voice steady as she delivered the final debrief. 3 foreign operatives captured. The directed energy weapon prototype recovered. And the infiltration network inside the base identified. The words carried a quiet gravity, the kind of report that never made headlines but would echo in classified files for years. Harlow regarded Alex across the desk, his tone firm but respectful. She had maintained her cover until the moment it mattered most, neutralizing a threat that could have crippled national security. He called it precision under fire. The kind of judgment that training could never teach. Alex responded evenly, her voice professional, saying she had only done her duty. It wasn't modesty. It was truth. In her world, success never came with celebration. Only the knowledge that she had done what was required and lived to see another dawn. Harlow opened a drawer and slid a slim folder across the desk. Inside was an authorization order for the creation of a specialized Navy SEAL counterintelligence unit under Tangle's command. Alex would lead it. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the base's HVAC system and the muffled sound of jet engines from the nearby runway. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, cutting thin lines across the polished desk. Alex accepted the folder, saluted, and turned to leave. As she stepped into the hallway, the weight of her new responsibility settled quietly on her shoulders. Peace never lasted long for those who served in the shadows, and she had already learned to live with that. The mess hall smelled of disinfectant and fresh paint, the sharp scent mingling with the faint aroma of coffee and reheated food. The shattered windows had been replaced, the tiles scrubbed clean, and laughter once again filled the air. Lieutenant Alexandra Reeves stepped inside, her uniform crisp, her stride even. Conversations faded as heads turned. The same recruits who had mocked her days earlier now stood when she entered, their posture straight, their expressions a mix of respect and quiet guilt. One recruit stepped forward, his voice hesitant but sincere. He thanked her for what she had done and apologized for judging her by her appearance. Alex studied their faces for a moment, seeing not arrogance anymore, but the uncertainty of youth, the realization of how quickly assumptions could turn to shame. She told them softly that the uniform didn't make the soldier. Character, discipline, and integrity did. Her tone carried authority but no anger, only the calm weight of someone who had seen what those values cost. The recruits said nothing more. They simply stood there, letting her words settle in the space between them. Alex gave a small nod, turned, and walked toward the door. Her footsteps echoed through the newly repaired hall, the sound of quiet strength rather than pride. As she stepped into the sunlight, the American flag outside caught the afternoon breeze. Its movement slow and steady, real strength, she thought, was never loud. It revealed itself only when tested, and often by those no one expected. The morning sun rose slowly over Naval Station Norfolk, casting a golden hue across the flight line and the calm waters beyond. The flag rippled gently in the wind, its edges catching the first light of day. The hum of the base had returned patrols, moved with practiced rhythm. The mess hall buzzed faintly with laughter, and the echoes of chaos had faded into quiet routine. It was the kind of peace that only those who had seen disorder could truly appreciate. The voiceover began softly, carrying the weight of reflection. Heroes are not always seen in battle gear. Courage does not always shout. Sometimes, it hides behind quiet acts of duty, carried out by those who ask for nothing in return. Lieutenant Alexandra Reeves was one of them, a woman who had served without seeking recognition, who had fought her battles in silence and walked away with nothing more than the knowledge that her mission was complete. The camera followed her figure now, walking along the pier. The Atlantic stretched wide before her, its surface calm under the early light. Navy aircraft rose overhead, their engines fading into the distance. She paused, hands in her pockets, the wind brushing her hair as she looked toward the horizon. The voiceover closed with a final thought. Heroes do not always wear medals. Sometimes they wear aprons, and sometimes they walk away in silence, leaving behind stories that will never make headlines, but will be remembered by those who understand what service truly means.